here. We're back for more Five Nights with Harry by Harry LaFertz. We are now on chapter 25. So, we're just going to get right on into this. And if you want to follow along, chapter link will be in the description below as always. Now let's get started. As they left the DA classroom, Hermione frowned as she looked back. Harry, did you notice anything about Umbridge? Giving her a raised eyebrow, Harry shook his head. You mean besides how tired she's looking? Beside him, though, Ron shook his head and shivered a bit. Wait, it's a lot worse than that. Did you see her eyes? They're practically bloodshot. And she's more jittery than Krill ever acted. Bloody hell, she shot off what looked like a curse into the wall. She's losing it. Harry just looked at him and snorted. And I should care that she's losing it? Seeing their expressions, he sighed. Look, I know you're both worried about how she's acting, and so am I. The last thing that I want is for anyone to get hurt. But she needs to go. After he glanced around to see if anyone was within range, Harry whispered to them. I overheard Susan Bones telling Hannah the other day about her aunt. Apparently Madame Bones is wondering why a number of Aurors have come to Hogwarts, but there's no reports on why. That caused Hermione to raise her eyebrows in surprise. So, Susan's aunt thinks that something is going on? What if she finds something? With a slight laugh, Harry shook his head. She won't, or at least not with regards to Hogwarts. Now, she might find something because of those quills of Umbridge's. Before she could say something, everyone in the hall turned as they heard Umbridge scream in terror, followed by a boom. One of the students rushed to the door and looked in for a few seconds as crashes and booms could be heard. Then they closed the door and shook their head as they looked to the others. She's freaking losing it! Umbridge is blasting the entire classroom. Unsure, Draco walked to the door and shoved the student out of the way. Let me through. Professor... Yelping, he barely dodged a curse that shot out of the door and hit a suit of armor. Slamming it shut, he turned to Pansy. Go get Professor Snape and tell him to come here. Now! Nodding, Pansy rushed off to do as told. His tongue dry, Harry glanced at Hermione, who was staring at the door in shock. Somehow, I don't think it'll be long before the cursed position claims another teacher. Both Hermione and Ron nearly jumped as they heard air behind them. If I have anything to do with it, she won't be here in a few days. Just a bit more and she should be done. Muttering under her breath, Hermione shook her head. This is getting dangerous, Harry. What if she hurts someone? With a snort, Aya continued. And she wasn't threatening students with exactly that? Hermione, the day after I started, she was threatening Muggleborn in her detention. She hinted that if they didn't stop disrupting her class, they might find that the auras could take a bit to reach them. Added that I know that some of the students with parents in the ministries have been told to toe the line, or else their parents might find themselves in trouble. As she considered this, the bushy-haired witch chewed her lip as they continued to walk away with other students, while some of the Slytherins, such as Draco, hung around the door. If that's true, then she might hurt someone before now. Aya grunted. Or before, she was ranting the other night about how it was all Harry's fault, and that it would have been so much better if he had gotten kissed as she had ordered the Dementors to. That it would have stopped all the problems from happening. It was a good thing that they were around the corner as Harry stopped and hissed. What? There were identical looks of shock on Ron's and Hermione's faces. She sent Dementors after him? It was then that they remembered the report in the Daily Prophet and turned to Harry as Ron gulped. Wait, how close? He glanced at his red-headed friend and frowned. Too close. But that's not the worst of it. At their looks, he continued. A number of kids were found in Surrey that seemed to have had all life sucked out of them and were brain dead. Sound familiar? Shivering as a chill went up her spine, Hermione shook her head. Okay, forget what I said about not pushing her. If she was willing to do that, and with people dying? Her mouth was dry. I don't want her around with how she seems to be getting more and more power. Another angry shriek drifted down the hallway as Harry's expression darkened, remembering the stories of the spirits possessing the toy animatronics. The sooner she's gone, the better. Erica was talking to the mole's owner when Olive came running up and held up a cup of something, while in the other arm she had a box of donuts. Here you go, Mommy. I got exactly what you wanted. Laying down, the young woman gave Olive a pat on the head as she glanced at the haunted house, where her group were finishing up the last few repairs. Thank you, Olive. Any change? As she nodded, the small animatronic reached down into a pouch and pulled out several coins and bills that she handed to Erica. Here you go, Mommy. All there. Slowly shaking her head, Erica sipped from her coffee as she gently took the change and put it into her pocket. Thank you, honey. And I know that it'll all be there because you're you. A giggle met her as she rubbed the top of Olive's head. Hearing her throat being cleared, she readjusted her now slightly dirty shirt, which had Fazbear Entertainment stretched across the front. Sorry about that. The owner of the mall only chuckled a bit. It's okay. Completely understandable. Besides, she's a well-behaved young girl. Helpful as well. Frowning a bit in puzzlement, he continued, though I don't know why she'd be wearing a costume this early, even though it's a good one. Then the owner glanced to where Vicky was helping the crew set up one of the displays, easily lifting what would normally take two people on her own, though she's not the only impressive one. With a glance of her own, Erica softly smiled. She's not, but she's my little girl. Just as she was about to continue, she heard shouting and turned to see a man standing over a kid nearby. What the hell? It took a moment, but the owner scowled and pulled up his radio as he began to walk over as he shouted, Alan, I told you that you're not welcome here, and you better leave before the police arrive. I know about the restraining order your wife has. Red-faced, the man shouted back, Fuck off. Neither you nor anyone else can tell me how to raise my kid. Him and his mother ruined me. When he turned, though, much to his surprise, Vicky had run over and come to a stop between him and the kid as she rushed over as soon as she saw what was happening. What the bloody fuck are you doing? Get out of my way. Frowning, Vicky shook her head. Sir, step away from the child. Behind her, the kid scrambled to his feet as the man got up into Vicky's face, not noticing a video camera nearby. You're as bad as that bitch. Out of my way. He made to shove her aside only for her to barely budge. All that did was cause Vicky to raise an eyebrow as she kept herself between him and the kid. I think it was supposed to be and the kid, as he slowly got angrier. I'll ask again. Please step away from the child. The only thing he did, though, was swing at her. Get the fuck out of my way. Vicky barely tilted her head a little when the fist impacted her. What is that supposed to be, their face or her face? I'll go with her face. After which he pulled away and clutched at his hand. A moment later, he got tackled by mole security and was being pulled away as Vicky turned to the kid and helped him to his feet. You okay there? A shout caused her to turn and see that the man had yanked himself free and grabbed a glass bottle from the garbage that he flung at her. Fucking bitch! In the time she realized where he was going, Vicky was already moving and wrapped the kid in a hug. Just in time as well, the ball impacted her back and shattered in a spray of shards. Once she knew it was safe, Vicky stood up and inspected the awed kid. You all right there? Next thing she knew, the kid had his arms wrapped around her waist. Thank you, ma'am. Then he looked up at her and gulped. Well, what about you? Dad hit you, and putting a paw on his head, she ruffled his hair. Perfectly fine. Finally, Erica and the mall owner got through the crowd that had gathered, and Erica looked her over. Any damage? At the shake of Vicky's head, Erica let out a sigh of relief. That's good. Glancing at her, though, the mole owner frowned as he ignored the shouts from the man as mole security restrained him. I'd still like one of my people to give her the once-over, just in case she's injured. There's a lot of glass on her back. Both Erica and Vicky looked and noticed that there was glass embedded in the shirt. Chuckling, Vicky only shook her head. It's nothing. Besides, I'll just have Erica give me her later, and she can do any repairs. Not having expected that answer, the mole blinked. Repairs? Sharing a smile with Vicky, Erica chuckled some. Remember how I was saying that Fazbear Entertainment is currently upgrading our main animatronic? It took a moment, but the mall owner whipped his head around to see Vicky lift up the bottom of her shirt to reveal that there was only a framework there and her robotic insides were visible. Vicky here, once known as Toy Foxy, is one of our test beds for the new animatronic programming and technology. As you can see, we've ironed out a lot of the old issues. Shocked and impressed, Erica was suddenly getting questions from everyone. What she had not noticed was someone videotaping them. Later on, that person was on the payphone. Jacob, it's Aaron. Have I got a video for the local news? Walking through the halls, Harry flipped through a non-magical newspaper interestedly, which caused Hermione to raise an eyebrow at him. Harry? Getting a grunt, she shared a look with him and cleared her throat. Is there something in the newspaper? With a chuckle, Harry looked at her before he flipped the newspaper so that she could look. See? There was a frown on her face before she saw the picture on the newspaper, which showed someone in a white fox costume with two cheek blushes covering a child as a glass bottle burst against her back. Eyes wide, Hermione glanced at Harry. This is terrible, Harry. Why are you so interested in it? As he shook his head, Harry reached over and tapped below the picture. Just read it. All of it will become clear. Giving him an odd look, Hermione still looked down and began to read. Fazbear Entertainment, Altercation in Mole, Pleasure's Throne, Toy Foxy, now renamed Vicky. Slowly, her eyebrows climbed higher and higher as she continued to go on. Protected the unidentified child with her body. Highly advanced eye system. Possible pass for returning tests. Finally, she finished and looked up at Harry with a disbelief look. Harry, is this Vicky? Harry nodded as he kept an eye out. Yeah, Vicky is a haunted animatronic. Before now confused Ron could say anything, Hermione frowned and looked down at the newspaper. Erica Parks. Is she related to Sally Ann? At Harry's nod, her frown deepened. I guess that it would make sense for them to pass it off as being a highly advanced Muggle AI. Now really confused, Ron looked between them. AI? What's an AI? Rolling her eyes, Hermione huffed a bit. It's AI, Ron, as in letter A and letter I. It stands for Artificial Intelligence. For a moment, she thought how to explain it before she nodded. You know how some items, when enchanted over time, seem to become intelligent? Eyes nod, Hermione continued. Muggle AI is kind of like that. Through their computers and using programming, they want to wake them up as being as smart and sapient as humans. Last I heard, they were getting pretty close. As he thought it over, Ron frowned a bit. Wonder if my dad knows about this. It was then that he saw a flash of gold and stopped. Mate, is your always, here? Glancing in the direction that Ron had looked, Harry scratched his chin. Yeah, her and Veronica have been following me all day. It is Halloween after all, and something bad always happens on Halloween to me. Both his friends looked as if they were about to argue that point, but then became thoughtful. After a few seconds, he turned towards him. That is actually rather scary with how correct it is. Ron nodded as he began to tick off on his fingers. First year, we had that troll. Second year, we had Miss Norris being frozen and getting blamed for it for a little while. Third year, we had Sirius Black when everyone thought him to be a deranged murderer, break into Gryffindor's tower with a knife. Fourth year, well... His ears reddened a bit at the memory of the previous Halloween. Yeah. With a slow blink, Harry held up another finger. Also, this is the night that my parents got murdered. There was a grimace on Hermione's face as she shook her head. You got the worst luck, which means that we should expect something bad to happen. Suddenly, the group heard shouting and turned to see a furious Amelia Bones marching fast through the school with two oars behind her and a breathless Fudge. Raising an eyebrow, Harry glanced at his friends. What that's all about. It was a testament as to how used Harry and his friends that they had gotten that neither Ron nor Hermione really jumped as Aya spoke up. For his part, Harry could see her as she came to rest with her chin on his shoulder. That would be due to what happened yesterday with Susan Bones. As he narrowed his eyes, Harry glanced at her. What happened? She wasn't hurt, was she? However, he relaxed as Aya shook her head. No, apparently she was concerned with that little club that Hermione dropped into your lap. She ignored the blush on Hermione's face as she continued. So she tried to give her some sort of potion? What was it called? The breath in Hermione's throat caught as she stared. Was it Serum? Aya snapped her fingers and nodded. Yeah, that was it. Serum. But Susan faked drinking it and deflected the questions, like how was her aunt was involved in Dumbledore's plan to overthrow the Ministry and instill himself as magical king, or how Harry here was a blossoming Dark Lord ready to throw all their side down to become the ruler with Muggleborns and half-breeds at the helm. I think what really pissed her off was when she asked if her aunt was still involved with Sirius. Shaking his head, Ron could only mutter, "Bunkers, she's freaking utterly busted." Only explanation for that. Using that stuff on a minor is against the law. Using it on Amelia Bones' niece is bloody brushing with death. With a low and dangerous chuckle, Aya shook her head. Seems that this whole thing with the DA was what finally pushed her over. From what I saw, she's seeing enemies everywhere, and Snape had to step in when she started screaming at one of these third-year Slytherins, thinking that they tripped her. Their conversation continued as they slowly made their way to the Great Hall when they heard shouts and screams as they entered one of the four-way intersections and looked to see a crazed Umbridge rushing toward them, followed by a furious Amelia and one of the Auras. Because of the spellfire, Harry bolted back into the hall they had exited from as Ron and Hermione threw themselves into one and at the opposite ends. However, Umbridge had seen Harry, and as she passed the hall, ducked under her spell and shot out some fire spell in his direction. As it headed toward him, he could feel Aya of the Black Mask possessing him just as golden pores shot out from under the invisibility cloak and grabbed his arm just before the flames hit him. Cold. All that he could feel was cold and an absence of light and air. Harry could not have told you if it was seconds, minutes, hours, or longer, but all he could describe was a chill that seemed to try and suck the life from him as it penetrated his body, and seemingly his very soul. The only other sensation was that of a pull he knew was Veronica as it grasped his arm. Suddenly he felt a wooden floor beneath him as light filled his sight and air rushed into his empty lungs. A sound returned to his world. A familiar voice and a thump could be heard before a hand grabbed his shoulder. Holy shit, Harry! Are you okay there? Looking up, Harry blinked through blurry eyes at the sight of Michelle standing over him. Michelle? Is that you? As she looked him over and nodded, Michelle frowned. Though that could have been due to how his uniform was smoking a bit, despite the rapidly evaporating frost that was also on it. Yeah, it's me. What the hell happened? Veronica got up off the floor as the cloak slipped fully off her. Harry got attacked by that teacher of his. Some sort of magical fire? I barely grabbed him in time and teleported out. For a moment she took in Harry's state and frowned. Doesn't seem to have agreed with him very well, though that is normal. That caused Michelle's head to snap up and glare at her. You've done this before? Holding her paws up, Veronica spoke softly. Both me and Rose have teleported him around, mainly to make sure that we could do so in case it ever became needed. Though it seems that if he's wearing his Shadow Tinker outfit, it doesn't affect him nearly as much. With a sigh, Michelle took a deep breath and turned to Veronica. Go and get me a glass of water now. Nodding rapidly, Veronica took off, much to Michelle's amusement. Then she turned back to see Harry looking down with a deep red face. Harry? For a moment, Harry stared before he forced his eyes to look into Michelle's. Where are your, trousers? All was still for a moment, for Michelle looked down to see that she was still in her sleepwear. It consisted of a shirt and panties and nothing else. Shit! Twisting around, she grabbed her trousers and began to force her legs through them, not seeing Harry watch her with wide eyes for a few seconds before he turned his head. Having finished his glass of water, some color began to flow back into Harry's cheeks as he laid back in Michelle's room. Sorry about dropping him like that. A warm hand on his, though, caused him to look up to see the worried expression on Michelle's face, though there was a heavy blush there. Never mind that, Harry. Taking a deep breath, she squeezed his hand. What exactly happened? For a few moments, Harry just lay there as he enjoyed the warmth of her hand in his before he sighed. You know Umbridge, right? At Michelle's nod, he continued as he sat up. Today she finally snapped. I guess when Amelia Bones, some oars, and Fudge showed up. Heard shouting and screaming, and turned to see her rushing for the doors, firing off spells and dodging them. She saw me and shot off some fire spell that I've never seen before, and Michelle finished the thought for him. And Veronica then grabbed you before it hit and teleported you here. The young wizard nodded, though his next words surprised her. I've got to get back soon, though. His hand being squeezed caused Harry to turn and blink as Michelle glared at him. Harry, are you nuts? You were just nearly killed, and you want to go back there? Why? Sighing, Harry rubbed his face. Michelle, I was just attacked by a flame spell of some kind. If they don't find me soon, they'll assume that I'm dead and will ask where I went when I disappeared. I don't want someone snooping around here and find you or the others if I can help it. All Michelle did was sigh as she held her face on one hand. God, this is beyond messed up. Running her fingers through her hair, she glanced at Harry with neither having noticed that she had not let go of his hand. It says her hand, but I think it's his hand. How soon? It took Harry a few seconds to answer, but finally he nodded. Probably best if I do it sooner rather than later. Finally, Michelle let go of his hand, but only so that she could pull him to a half hug. He had to blink though. She laid her head on his shoulder. Can we just stay like this for a little bit? Confused, Harry slowly relaxed and placed his head against hers. Yeah, sure. I don't think that it would make much difference. Both of them sat there for several minutes before Harry sighed and gave her hand a squeeze. Michelle? Slowly, she nodded and got up with him as she let go of his hand. I know. Just promise me that you'll be safe. Harry chuckled a bit and gave her a smile. I'll be as safe as one can be in a school full of... What did Lisa say? Right. Reality warping emotional teens. That only caused Michelle's voice to become dry. That's not helping, Potter. After a moment, they both chuckled before she hugged him. Just try to be a bit safer than normal, okay? Nodding, Harry's eyes widened some as he felt her lips against his cheeks. For good luck. Once he shook off his shock, Harry smiled as Veronica gripped his shoulder. Thanks. Before Michelle could react, he leaned forward and kissed her cheek as well. Same to you. Talk to you tonight? And with that, they vanished, leaving a chill that dissipated rapidly. The goofy smile on her face, though, was wiped off when she heard a chuckle and turned to see Faith there leaning against her door frame. Good thing that I made sure that Mikey couldn't see that. Though, he'll be pissed off once he wakes up. Slightly confused as what she meant, and more than a little embarrassed that her father might have caught some of what happened, Michelle cleared her throat. How much? Faith only shook her head. Enough. Though he's knocked out at the moment. Looking out the door, Michelle could see her sleeping father sitting against the wall. So then. Then Faith closed the door and shook her head. So, you really care about him, huh? Having guessed what she meant, Michelle said, play dense. Well, yeah, he's my friend. All Faith did was shake her head. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Walking over to the side table, the Spectre looked at a photo of Harry and Michelle. He is a great guy, you know. Crossing her arms across her chest, Michelle bit her lip. A little. Yeah, he is. The Spectre picked up the picture and looked at it. Any advice, Michelle? From someone who knows a thing or two. Taking her silence as an answer, Faith gently set the photo back down. Don't let him slip through your fingers if you feel more for him than friendship. If you do, then later on you'll always wonder. Her brows furrowed. Michelle wondered exactly how Faith would know this. but also knew that she wouldn't answer. Maybe. A shadow dodged between the trees in the forbidden forest before it stopped, leaned up against one. Then, an opening in the clouds above allowed some moonlight to reach the forest floor and reveal that the shadow was a dishevelous Dolores Umbridge who giggled some. She could hear her pursuers a distance away. Good, good. That's it. Keep going in that direction, half-breed lovers. Licking her lips, she looked around. I have to be outside the anti-apparition spell by now. Just have to throw them off my trail. Yes, that should work. Suddenly she stilled at a sound behind her. Ahem. Turning slowly, Umbridge's eyes widened at the being who sat on a fallen log just a few feet away from her. It looked like a human composed entirely of shadow, except for two wide, bloodshot eyes and a grinning mouth with no lips, which revealed white teeth. Good. I have your attention now. Backing up a bit, Umbridge didn't notice a shadow creeping ever closer as she kept her eyes on the shadow being. What are you? You're a Dumbledore, aren't you? However, Air only chuckled. I am something more than those beings that you call ghosts. I suppose, though, that if you must give me a name, it would be a spectre. Though Wraith might be another, as I am full of wrath at the moment. Though you should be rather familiar with me. With a grin on her face, the phantom animatronics faded into existence around her, all of them looking at Umbridge with hungry looks. Or rather, my phantom friends here. With her eyes wide, the witch trembled before she suddenly glared at Aya. You! It was you! Much to her surprise, Aya only laughed with her eyes spread out before she grinned down at Umbridge. Yes, it was me. It was always me. You thought it was Dumbledore this whole time. See, it was me. Aya! Screeching, Umbridge whipped out her wand and a green spell shot from it and impacted Aya, who blinked and looked down. Huh? That rather tickled. Now staring in fear, Umbridge backed up some more as a shadow rose up behind her. How? Why? Aya did all as she shook her head. Well, you can't kill that which is dead, you know. As for why, I wanted to punish you for what you have done. Not to mention, I'm the distraction, you toady bitch. Those words caused Umbridge to whip around with a spell on her lip, only for a large golden and metal paw to clamp over her mouth and another clamp over her mouth as another grabbed her hand and aimed the wand upwards. Veronica slowly leaned down enough to glare at Umbridge in the eye as the witch saw the decayed human jaw move. I really dislike it when I come across those who harm children. It makes me rather mad, especially when those children include those that I care about. Adjusting Umbridge around so that she was held tightly to her body, Veronica nodded to Aya. Must be going to, you know. People to see, places to be, and all that. And with those words, Veronica vanished. Nodding, Aya glanced around before she sank into the ground. Should go up and check up on Harry. With how that man Improvi is, he'll need someone to talk to. The unnatural cold and darkness around Veronica faded as she found herself in a building. Just as she was about to greet Sirius, she took note of his horrified expression before he backed up, shouting at her, What the bloody fucking hell, Veronica? Blinking, the fox animatronic was about to ask what the issue was when she felt the weight in her arms suddenly lighten to the sound of various objects hitting the ground and shattering. Then she looked down and her eyes widened and she found that the only thing in her paws was a rotten skull and some arm bones. At Veronica's feet were the broken bones that had fallen off. Such bones looked like they were centuries old. What the hell? Sirius shuddered some as he took a step forward. That's what I want to know. You were only supposed to bring her here so that I could knock her out for a few days, and then we would drop her off close to Digan after I wiped her memories for someone to find and capture her. He gave her another look. That is, Umbridge, right? Her mouth opening and closing, it took a few moments for Veronica to say something. Yes, it is, but I don't know what happened here. With an expression of disgust, she let the skull and arm bones join the rest. I didn't do anything other than what we had planned, and this happened. Taking a breath, Sirius nonetheless winced as the smell hit him. Could it have been the teleport thingy that you do? Once more, Veronica shook her head some. No, Rosa and myself have taken Harry places with it, and it never harmed him. Sure, he was really tired and cold afterwards, but not, this. While he ran a hand through his hair, Sirius paced a bit before he stopped and turned to look at her. Was there anything different between Harry and what happened here? Cocking her head to the side, Veronica considered it for a moment. Well, Harry never thought during it, and usually he had a hand possessing him, and sometimes the Black Mass as well. Though when it's both, he's a lot less tired and cold afterwards. The best experience he has with it would be along with wearing these Tika suits. As he frowned, Sirius shuddered a bit. Maybe a hand possessing him provides him some sort of protection, and it becomes better if he has the Black Mass in that suit. Bloody hell. Shaking his head, he sighed. Okay, that teleport thing is not going to be used with him unless it's no other choice. At least until we know what's going on. For a few minutes there was complete and utter silence before Veronica cleared her throat. So, what are we gonna do about, Glancing at the bones, Sirius just grimaced. A high-pitched, pierced whistling rang through the building before a grumbling old man entered the room. There was a frown on his face as he looked around. Wonder who it is this time, eh? Walking up to the instrument, just one of about a dozen, he frowned and thought. Doris, huh? Always warned about her about trying to grab too much. Though, wonder who got her. At that moment, he just waved it off. Bah, what does it matter? The man threw the device against the wall where it shattered before he walked over to an old-style printing press and cackled as he began to warm up. We got a long day ahead of us, old girl. Now that he was done, he walked over to a wall of safes and tapped his chin. Now then, which is Dolores? Which one? Calls could be heard in the background before he stuck his head out the window and shouted, Shut your beak, you bunch of cannon eaters. I'll have a job for you soon enough, and then I'll feed you. Shutting the window, the man shook his head as he rubbed his hand. Right then, time to get started. And that's the end of chapter 25. That's a little confusing at the end of what was going on there. Wonder who that's supposed to be. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the chapter. If you did, leave a like. Go leave a review. You don't have to have an account. It just means that he can't respond to you, or they can't respond to you. But if you do leave a review, come back and tell me what you think. But if you don't, then I don't want to know. And also be sure to subscribe. I upload new videos every Friday. And I will see you guys next Friday with a new video.